Now, the latest data shows that there are about 4,300 apprehensions per day.
375 immigration judges to judge whether or not someone can come or not come and be fair about it. My friends on the other side have done nothing with that. Over and over, I've asked for resources to step up action at the border.
1,000 apprehensions per day, which, by the way, holds a record for the most apprehensions in a month.
Security at the border. The first bill I introduced.
And a Supreme Court ruling stating those federal agents can cut razor wire
To negotiate a deal, including border. Because I believe we need significant policy changes.
Texas Biden border battle. All right, buckle up for the Texas Biden border battle. It's a showdown of epic proportions, folks. The Lone Star State is throwing down with the Biden administration over the chaotic migrant crisis at the border. It's like a Wild West standoff, but instead of cowboys and tumbleweeds, we've got federalized troops and state authorities locking horns. So what's the beef? Well, the White House is mulling over the not-so-friendly idea of federalizing the Texas National Guard. That's like pouring gasoline on a fire, sparking fears of an all-out clash at the border. Think of it as a high-stakes poker game, with Texas holding its cards close and Biden eyeing the pot. Now, Texas isn't sitting idly by. Nope, they've thrown the rule book out the window, starting to slap cuffs on single adult men and women crossing the border illegally. It's like they're the sheriffs of the border town, defying a Supreme Court injunction and giving federal agents the old heave-ho. But here's where it gets spicy. Texas isn't standing alone in this dusty showdown. Oh no, they've rallied the troops, literally. Picture this: 25 Republican governors riding in, guns blazing, pledging support for Texas. They're sending state and National Guard members to join the posse, helping install razor wire on the southern border. It's like a political rodeo, and Texas is riding the bull. And speaking of razor wire, that's become the star of the show. Texas is rolling it out like a red carpet, arguing it's the VIP treatment for border security. But hold your horses, not everyone is cheering. There's a full-blown debate on whether this razor wire is a hero or a villain in the border saga. Now, imagine Trump-era policies riding into town on horseback, gunslingers with names like Remain in Mexico. Some folks say these policies could be the sheriff's silver bullet, but others argue it's just stirring up dust with no real solution. The Biden administration is catching flack left and right. Critics say they're fumbling the ball, letting the crisis spiral out of control. But hold on, they've got a poker face on, insisting they've got a plan. Immigration reform, talks with Mexican officials, the whole shebang.
My friends on the other side have done nothing with that. Over and over, I've asked for resources to step up action at the border. If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly.
This after the state seized control of the park to arrest migrants.
To put together the toughest, smartest, fairest border security bill in history.
As the dust settles, there's a lingering question in the air. Will this border battle end in a resolution or a full-blown confrontation? Texas Governor Greg Abbott is standing firm, refusing to hand over control to the feds, setting the stage for a potential political shootout. In the Lone Star State, where everything's bigger, this border battle is shaping up to be a Texas-sized showdown between state sovereignty and federal might. Grab your popcorn, folks, because the Texas Biden border battle is the blockbuster drama of the political Wild West. Federalizing Texas National Guard. All right, let's talk about the White House stirring the pot with the idea of federalizing the Texas National Guard. It's like tossing a lit match into a fireworks factory. Explosive, and not everyone's thrilled about it. Texas, with its own set of rules and swagger, is suddenly having Uncle Sam stepping in and saying, "I'm taking the reins now, partner." That's the gist of federalizing the Texas National Guard. It's a move that's got more drama than a soap opera, and it's not winning any popularity contests. The big concern here? A direct clash at the border. It's like watching two heavyweight boxers stepping into the ring, and everyone's holding their breath for the first punch. Federalized troops facing off against state authorities. It's a recipe for a showdown that could make the Texas sun seem chilly. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, let's break it down. Texas has been playing by its own border security playbook, slapping cuffs on folks crossing illegally and installing razor wire like it's going out of style. Federalizing the National Guard is Uncle Sam saying, "Enough of this cowboy business, it's my show now." But hold on a minute, Texas ain't having it. Governor Greg Abbott is standing his ground, telling the feds, "No way, Jose." It's like a Texan staring down a grizzly bear and saying, "This here's my territory."
And by the way, I've worked with China and Mexico to slow the flow of fentanyl in the United States. As I speak, it's way down.
The crisis on the border intensifies. If it passes, it would become law, and the first time this country has had immigration reform.
1,000 apprehensions per day, which, by the way, holds a record for the most apprehensions in a month.
Early on and again in October to secure our borders.
The clash of ideologies is like a Texas-sized thunderstorm brewing. On one side, you've got the Lone Star State flexing its independence muscles, and on the other, you've got the federal government wanting to bring some order to the Wild West. The real question is, will this move bring resolution or just add fuel to the fire? It's the kind of political drama that's got everyone on the edge of their seats, wondering if the Texas National Guard will become a pawn in this high-stakes chess game between state sovereignty and federal authority. So grab your cowboy hat and a bag of popcorn, folks. The federalizing of the Texas National Guard is shaping up to be the next episode in the nail-biting series of the Texas Biden Border Battle. Will it be a harmonious duet or a clash of cymbals? Stay tuned for the showdown at the Texas Corral. Arrests of illegal crossers. Hold on to your hats, folks, because Texas ain't playing games at the border. They've thrown the cuffs into the ring. Texas authorities are on a roll, slapping handcuffs on single adult men and women crossing the border illegally. It's like the sheriff rolling into town, ready to restore order, but not everyone is tipping their hats in approval. The Lone Star State has decided to take matters into its own hands, saying, "You cross our border without an invitation, and we're slapping you with a pair of bracelets." It's a bold move that's turning up the heat in the already scorching Texas Biden border battle. Now let's talk about tension. It's rising faster than the Texas temperature in July. The federal government is looking at Texas like it just kicked over the apple cart, and the clash of ideologies is about as friendly as a rattlesnake in a henhouse. But why the fuss over these arrests? Well, it's like Texas is laying down the law, putting its foot down and saying, if the feds won't do it, we sure will.
So let me be clear. My team has been at the table for weeks now with a bipartisan group of senators.
Now, this continues to be a years-long battle between the federal government and the state of Texas.
375 immigration judges to judge whether or not someone can come or not come and be fair about it.
It's a bold defiance, a sort of Lone Ranger move by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. The arrests are like a flare shooting into the night sky, signaling that Texas is standing firm, boots planted in the dusty soil against what they see as federal negligence. It's got people on both sides of the fence, pun intended, either cheering or shaking their heads in disbelief. But let's not forget, this isn't just a local hoedown, it's part of a larger drama in the Texas Biden border battle. Texas is dancing to its own tune, challenging the status quo, and the federal government is left trying to figure out how to respond to the Lone Star State's bold moves. As the sun sets over the Texan horizon, one thing's for sure. These arrests are like a new chapter in the ongoing saga. Will it bring resolution, or will it be another spark in the wildfire of tensions between state and federal authorities? Y'all better grab a front row seat, because the Texas Biden border battle just got a whole lot more intriguing. Defiance of SC injunction. Hold on to your boots, folks, because Texas is throwing down the gauntlet in a bold move that's making headlines. They're flipping the script on the Supreme Court. An emergency injunction from the bigwigs at the Supreme Court and waving the federal border agents in, and Texas responds with a resounding, "Not on our turf." So here's the lowdown. Texas, in a move that's got the legal eagles scratching their heads, is defying the emergency injunction. It's like a Texan saying, "We dance to our own tune," and the tune doesn't include letting federal border agents waltz in like they own the place. The Lone Star State has decided to stand firm, giving Uncle Sam the cold shoulder. Governor Greg Abbott is channeling his inner cowboy, telling the feds, "You might have the law on your side, but we've got Texas grit, and that counts for something." But why the defiance? Well, Texas has been installing razor wire, setting up a sort of Texan fortress along the southern border. The Supreme Court says, let the feds in, but Texas is saying, not so fast. We've got our own plans.
For funding that would add another 22,000 additional border agents.
To have forgotten that he is the governor of one of 50 states and not the president of a Republic of Texas.
Security at the border. The first bill I introduced.
It's like a standoff at high noon, with the Supreme Court holstering its legal authority and Texas squaring up with a backbone as tough as mesquite wood. The tension is thicker than Texas barbecue sauce, and everyone's waiting to see who's going to flinch first. Now let's talk about federal border agents. They're left cooling their heels at the border like a bunch of eager actors waiting for their cue. Texas has slammed the door shut, and the Supreme Court's emergency injunction is starting to look more like a suggestion than an order. The defiance is like a wild stallion on the loose, symbolizing Texas's refusal to bow down to federal pressure. But make no mistake, this isn't just a Lone Star State quarrel, it's a pivotal moment in the Texas-Biden border battle. As the legal dust settles, the big question looms large. Will Texas maintain its stance, staring down the Supreme Court, or will there be a twist in the plot? The Texas-Biden border battle just got a jolt of adrenaline, and it's shaping up to be a showdown for the history books. Saddle up, folks, because this Texan tale is far from over. Support from 25 Republican governors. Looks like Texas isn't standing alone in this border brawl. They've got themselves a posse of 25 Republican governors riding into town, guns blazing with support. It's like a political stampede, and the Lone Star State is leading the charge. Picture this. Texas is knee-deep in the Texas-Biden border battle, installing razor wire like it's going out of style. And just when you think it's a lone cowboy act, in rides the cavalry, 25 Republican governors from across the country, hats tipped in solidarity, ready to lend a hand. Now let's talk about this support. It's not just a pat on the back. No, sir. These governors are sending in the troops. State and National Guard members are saddling up and heading to the southern border faster than you can say, yee. It's a show of force. A political convoy rolling in to back up Texas in their razor wire installation escapade. The message is clear. These governors are standing shoulder to shoulder with Texas, like a band of brothers in a Western flick. It's a move that's got the Biden administration scratching their heads, wondering if they underestimated the Lone Star State's ability to rally the troops. But why the support? It's like a coalition of political cowboys, lassoing together against what they see as federal overreach. They're saying, if Texas needs backup, we're riding in, guns blazing.
2 months ago, my team began to work with a bipartisan group of senators. A new detection equipment to stop fentanyl from coming into the country.
Now, the latest data shows that there are about 4,300 apprehensions per day.
Folks, we're making real progress. One of the most important issues we're facing.
It's a spectacle that's adding more layers to the already complex tapestry of the Texas-Biden border battle. As the troops roll in, it's not just about installing razor wire, it's a symbolic gesture, a stand against what these governors perceive as a lack of action from the federal government. It's like they formed a political blockade saying, if the feds won't act, we will. This isn't just a Lone Star State affair anymore. It's a united front of Republican governors throwing their weight into the ring. The Texas-Biden border battle just got a whole lot more interesting, with a coalition of governors turning it into a political rodeo that's sure to have folks on both sides of the fence talking. So grab your popcorn, folks. The Texas posse and their razor wire installation party just turned this political drama into a blockbuster with a cast of characters you wouldn't want to mess with. Razor wire installation. Texas isn't messing around in this border bonanza. They've gone full-on fortress mode, rolling out razor wire like they're preparing for the mother of all Texas barbecues. Picture this. The southern border now wrapped up tighter than a cowboy's lasso. So what's the deal with all this razor wire? Texas is in the middle of a showdown with the Biden administration over the migrant crisis, and they're not leaving any gaps in their defenses. It's like they're saying, if you won't secure the border, we sure as heck will. The Lone Star State has become a spaghetti western set, with razor wire snaking across the southern frontier. They're installing it faster than a cattle stampede, and the message is clear: Texas means business when it comes to border security. Now, why razor wire? It's not just for show. Texas argues it's a practical move. Enhanced security measures, they say. It's like putting up a big ol' "keep out" sign for anyone thinking about crossing the border illegally. Picture a prickly welcome mat. It's not exactly inviting. But hold your horses. Not everyone is cheering for this razor wire extravaganza. Critics are saying it's like turning the southern border into a fortress, raising concerns about the optics and the effectiveness of such measures. It's a debate as hot as a Texas summer day. As Texas continues to unroll the razor wire, it's not just about physical barriers, it's a symbolic statement. It's the Lone Star State drawing a line in the sand, telling the federal government, if you won't secure the border, we're doing it ourselves. This razor wire saga is adding another layer to the Texas-Biden border battle, turning the southern border into a high-stakes obstacle course.
Hundreds of new immigration judges to make the judgments on the spot.
From Congress since the 90s. The future of the deal does have some speculating.
And a Supreme Court ruling stating those federal agents can cut razor wire.
And over 100 cutting-edge inspection machines to help detect and stop fentanyl coming out of our state.
It's a visual cue that Texas isn't backing down, and they're willing to get creative in the face of what they see as a crisis. So, grab your boots, folks. The razor wire is just one chapter in this Lone Star State tale, and as the debate rages on, one thing's for sure. Texas is making a statement, and it's as sharp as the razor wire they're rolling out. Debate on razor wire effectiveness. Well, we've got ourselves a regular Texas-sized showdown, and it's not about gunslingers or cattle rustlers. It's about razor wire. That's right. The debate on the effectiveness of this prickly fencing is hotter than a jalapeno on a summer day, with folks on either side of the fence, pun intended, ready to throw down their opinions. First off, in one corner of the ring, you've got the supporters, those who think razor wire is the unsung hero of border security. Picture them as the sheriffs in a classic Western film saying, "This here wire is going to keep them varmints out." They argue that it's a practical and cost-effective solution, a modern-day moat to protect the castle. But hold your horses. In the other corner, you've got the opposition, the folks who think razor wire is more trouble than it's worth. They're raising their eyebrows like skeptical saloon patrons saying, "Is this really the best we can do?" They're concerned about the humanitarian aspect, questioning whether it's a humane way to address the complex issue of immigration. Now, why the fuss? Well, razor wire isn't just your run-of-the-mill picket fence. It's sharp, it's imposing, and it sends a clear message: trespassers beware. Supporters argue that it's a visual deterrent, like a digital sign flashing no entry, discouraging those thinking of crossing the border illegally. On the flip side, opponents worry about the potential for injury and the negative optics of turning the border into what some describe as a battle zone. It's a debate that's not just about physical barriers. It's about the message the U.S. wants to send to the world.
To negotiate a deal, including border, because I believe we need significant policy changes.
As the state continues to fly and bust
and remove about 30 miles of razor wire.
It includes an additional 1,300 border patrols. We need more agents on the border.
The razor wire tussle is adding fuel to the already fiery Texas-Biden border battle. It's a clash of ideologies, a debate about what defines effective border security. As the arguments fly like tumbleweeds in the wind, one thing's for sure: this debate isn't going to be lassoed and settled anytime soon. So saddle up, folks! Because the razor wire debate is the latest scene in the ongoing drama of the Wild Wild West. Or in this case, the Wild Wild Border. Trump-era policies. It looks like the political cowboys are riding back into town, and they're carrying the Trump-era policies like prized possessions. One of the frontrunners in this rootin' tootin' revival is none other than the Remain in Mexico policy. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to dive into a discussion on whether these policies can rope in a solution to the current border crisis. Remain in Mexico is like the old sheriff in town, keeping an eye on things and making sure folks don't just stroll in without a proper invite. As the discussion heats up, the question on everyone's mind is whether resurrecting these Trump-era policies is the cattle prod needed to corral the border crisis. It's like a poker game where the chips are the lives and futures of those seeking refuge. The Biden administration is caught in the middle of this high-stakes poker game, trying to decide whether to fold or play the hand they've been dealt. It's a delicate dance between border security and humanitarian concerns, and the decisions made will ripple through the landscape of immigration policy. So, folks, grab your seats in the political saloon, because this Trump-era policy discussion is shaping up to be a showdown in the ongoing Texas-Biden border battle. Will Remain in Mexico be the hero or the villain in this tale? Only time will tell in this wild, wild west of immigration policy. Biden administration's response. Well, it seems like the Biden administration has found itself in a bit of a tumbleweed storm over their handling of the border crisis. Critics are raising their eyebrows like they just spotted a snake in the grass, questioning the effectiveness of the current immigration policies and strategies. Let's saddle up and take a closer look at how the Biden posse is handling this here situation. The Biden administration is in the hot seat, facing some pretty hefty criticism for the way they're managing the border crisis. It's like they've entered the saloon, and instead of a warm welcome, they're met with raised eyebrows and grumbles from the locals. So what's got folks riled up? It's a mix of things. First off, there's the issue of razor wire. Texas is laying it down like a defensive fortification, and some are wondering why the Biden administration isn't reining it in. Critics argue that it's a symbol of a border out of control, and the administration's response seems more like a shrug than a plan. Then there's the whole Remain in Mexico debate. Some are saying, hey, that worked before, why not give it another spin? The Biden administration, though, seems to be slow playing their cards on whether to bring back this policy. It's like they're holding a poker face while critics are calling for a change in strategy.
Lindsay, we are seeing a sharp decline in total apprehensions.
Justices ruling Monday that Border Patrol can cut.
The best one the nation's ever seen. It would finally provide the funding I requested.
Thousands of migrants to democratically run cities across the country.
So, grab your hats, folks, because the Biden posse is in the midst of a political rodeo, and the critics are hooting and hollering from the stands. The real question is whether the administration can lasso a solution to this border conundrum, or if it's going to be a wild ride for the foreseeable future. Potential resolution or confrontation. We're standing at the crossroads of uncertainty, and the Texas-Biden border battle is like a poker game where no one knows who's holding the winning hand. The man of the hour, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, is standing firm, refusing to hand over control of the border, and the big question on everyone's mind is whether we're headed for a resolution or a full-blown confrontation. Governor Abbott is like a lone cowboy on the Texas frontier, saying, "This here border is under Texas rule, and I ain't giving it up without a fight." It's a bold move, and the stakes are high, like a high noon standoff with the federal government. Now, the possibilities are like tumbleweeds in the wind. On one side, there's the potential for a resolution. Maybe the Lone Star State and the feds will sit down, have themselves a good old negotiation, and find common ground. It's the diplomatic route, where cooler heads prevail and both parties can save face.
1,600 asylum officers.
Whether it would end or intensify Governor Abbott's efforts to protect the border here in Texas.
Only to rebound around the spring. In Texas, State Attorney General Ken Paxton denying federal Border Patrol agents.
Governor Abbott's refusal to budge is like a flag in the wind, signaling that Texas won't be bossed around. It's a strong statement, and the Biden administration is left to decide whether to call or fold in this high-stakes game of political poker. As the sun sets over the Texas horizon, the air is thick with anticipation. Will there be a resolution, with both sides finding common ground for the greater good? Or will we witness a confrontation that echoes through the pages of history? Grab your boots and hat, folks, because the Texas-Biden border battle is reaching a critical juncture. Will it be a peaceful resolution or a dramatic confrontation? Only time will tell in this unpredictable tale of state sovereignty, federal authority, and the ever-shifting winds of the political landscape. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.